Hello, everyone, and welcome. Jasper Colin is a global research and analytics firm transforming data into decisions. Today's conversation is part of our Global Thought Leadership Initiative From Silo to Synergy, redefining healthcare research ecosystems. We're so delighted to be joined today by Dr. Brandon Lucke-Wold, a neurosurgical clinician-scientist at the University of Florida. So you particularly straddle the worlds of clinical medicine and lab-based innovation. So what does cross-disciplinary research mean to you in that context?
So it really takes a whole team to initiate some of these large clinical trials that we're performing. So we bridge the gap all the way from preclinical studies to clinical trials. But I work very closely with neurocritical care neurologists. I have a close coordinator that helps lead the team with master's in public health background. We have multiple different students, all the way from medical students and undergrads up to residents, and then really partner with different disciplines from the engineering side and some of the devices really propelling the field forward. Work with some PhD scientists I work closely with as well. So it keeps the job very interesting. I'm talking to very talented individuals every day to try to propel treatments forward to help patients.
So that takes us seamlessly into translational research in today's healthcare environment. How do you see the current relationship between clinical practice and research evolving? Are discoveries moving quickly enough from bench to bedside?
I think there's a changing landscape in terms of FDA regulations. There's a big push to transition from animal work to more specific organoid, and so even a lot of the work I'm doing in terms of drug screening, we're doing more brain-specific organoids, so really targeting disease-specific modalities. As the organoids get better, our drug screening can improve, and it also helps with the translation. Really getting to the point of clinical trial is accelerating. So we're using human-based samples to study the disease in a more specific manner, growing more of a functional connectivity by stripping it down to that basic part and then regrowing the organoid. So it's pretty exciting. It's a very cutting-edge technology that's being used. I'm pretty excited about the potential of how we can get treatments to patients in a little bit more effective manner. It should really help bridge that gap from preclinical to clinical.
What are the biggest structural or operational barriers that prevent researchers and clinicians from working in sync?
There's a little bit of disconnect with some of the clinical world in terms of the day-to-day operations and how busy it can be. Vice versa, there is sometimes a disconnect from that research world. I think it really takes having individuals that are trained in both spectrums to bridge that gap, understanding how both potential silos work and trying to merge that together. There's a lot of times language of the engineering versus the clinician might be a little bit different. And a lot of our drugs that we're developing are trying to target some of those pathways more effectively. And so they're more focused on some of the technical aspects. And there will be a lot of talk about some of the properties that make up the devices, chemical structure, lattice of how like stent or coil might function. The engineers are really focused on how does the device work. Business executives are looking at profit margins. So there's a lot of terminology that's being thrown around. I think it behooves everyone to get a little bit more education outside of their initial discipline to help with some of that communication.
And with that being said, what role do emerging technologies, AI, data science, global research networks play in shaping this next phase of research synergy?
I think it plays absolute critical role. It's definitely a tool that is being adapted. We're learning more about how to capitalize. I think it doesn't replace like the human component and the creativity that we all bring as well. I think it just helps provide an avenue for making it more effective. There's a lot of ideas and grants and information that we are sharing by using AI as a tool. I think that will help propel patient care forward in a more efficient manner. We can really look at drug screening, make sure that there are no interactions between medications. We can combine it with robotics, which are commonly used in the surgical spectrum. There's a lot of innovation that's coming in terms of rapid image interpretations, instantaneous interpretation of angiograms, and helping guide day-to-day treatment decisions, some new video generation in terms of teaching tools. And so I'm very excited about how the technology will continue to foster our ability to improve outcomes for patients, improve our ability to train the next generation.
What to you does true synergy mean in the context of healthcare research? And are there any examples?
So from healthcare research, I think the synergy is having, like the water, the true flow of all different parts going together, and that there's a common direction and goal, and there's different pieces that are being added and new information, and it might pivot at different points, but ultimately it is going forward in the right direction. Every information, even if it is negative or result wasn't what we expected, helps guide the next step. And so it's that fluidity of having that continued process and continued refinement. The ultimate success is the team. And if the team is focused and driven and continued to remain true to that ultimate goal, even with all the pivots and the barriers, things continue to move in the right direction.
Yes, progress is not linear, but it's still progress. Our final question for you today before we wrap up, are there any experiences or examples from your own work that capture what successful cross-disciplinary collaboration looks like in action?
One of the most exciting results is discovery from the preclinical space. So we found that targeting like neuroinflammation had some protective benefit for that vasospasm that we were talking about. And the reason that is important is it can prevent stroke for subarachnoid hemorrhage patients. Based on those results, we were able to translate that into a clinical trial. So we were able to take something all the way from a laboratory bench to a first-in-human trial, providing some very meaningful impact. There's no current drugs that help target that effectively, so this has a strong potential for really helping patients down the road. It's been an exciting discovery to see something that has had a strong effect early on and has advanced to a point where we can help patients and really learn some important data that can help guide further development.